From Courtside the Virtual Hardwood, it's the NLSC podcast, episode number 396. Andrew with you once again. I am Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. My co-host is Derek. You know him in the forum as D43 and D4384 on Twitter.
Oh, happy to be here again. Can you believe that you're almost up to 400 NLSC podcasts?
It's funny because as Leftos mentioned when we spoke to him earlier this year, I originally didn't want to do the podcast. I was supposed to be a fill-in guest host for John, for Joust Ming, and here I am having been on almost 400 shows myself.
It's wild. I mean, we've talked about it before. I guess statistics show that the average podcast doesn't last more than 7 episodes.
Something like that,
like
yeah.
Usually people,
7.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 at the most. A lot of people give up on it. A lot of, I think YouTube shows as well. Like a lot of people don't last. You've got to stick with it because obviously it takes a while for things to gain traction, and sometimes the numbers can be up and down. But you, like anything, like any content creation online, you have to be passionate about it and let that passion carry you.
No, 100%. And yeah, I mean your love for basketball gaming is as big as it ever was. So, and you're almost up to episode 407. So it's just wild. And I think we're almost up to 100 episodes together. So yeah, it's been a fun ride so far.
It has been, and here's to many more. I mean, it's always great to get on here and talk with you and share our opinions with our listeners about basketball games or the latest news, etc. Not a lot of news this week, but we have been playing the games, and of course the NBA Live 10 tournament rolls on, although you and I are a little bit behind on getting our semi-final round going.
Yeah, I hosted 3 games of the Cavs-Lakers series on NBA Live 10, and obviously, again, this is the semifinals, and the Cavs are controlled by Cavs 4872. The Lakers are controlled by Q. On Discord, he's QB1120, but he's Q in the forums. And, yeah, so a sweep. And Cavs rolls on, and a Delonte West game, a new video game legend, emerged in game 2, where I want to say he had about 40 points with Delonte West, almost all in the second half. And we're talking fadeaway threes all over the floor, drives, unstoppable drives to the basket and whatnot. And, Q couldn't do anything. He was in there trying to stop him with, Bynum and Gasol. And then on the perimeter, he was jumping out at him with Kobe or Artest and whatnot, and just couldn't stop him. And yeah, the last game, the third game of the series, the elimination game, it went down to the final buzzer, and right at in the last second of the game, and this is going to be in the top 10 highlights coming up, Cavs got a rebound, and Zydrunas Ilgauskas fired it from full court. And this is actual full court, not just saying full court. He was like right under under the basket on the opposite side of the court, and he threw it, and it went nothing but net. The shot wasn't necessary because he had already wrapped it up. He just kind of threw it up there, but it went nothing but net. So, yeah, the winner of you and me, we're playing in the semifinals. You and I is going to be playing the Cavs with Shaq and Zydrunas Ilgauskas, LeBron James, Mo Williams, Delonte West, etc.
Well, it sounds like Delonte West is the man we have to look out for.
Clearly, because LeBron scored 0 points in game 2, and Delonte West carried the full load. So it was a very strange game, strange series too, because Q couldn't get Kobe Bryant to get his shots falling. In the Sluggy Sports series, he was hitting everything against Sluggy. And Kobe, as we saw, Kobe averaged close to 40 points per game in that series, but he wasn't shooting very well in the series against the Cavs.
It's how it goes sometimes, even in real life, I suppose. But it's funny that full court shot, because of course you hit that shot from beyond half court, not quite full court, of course, but certainly close to 3/4 court with Michael Finley against me, that we've talked about on the show a couple of times, because it was such an amazing moment for both of us playing that game, playing Live 10. But I have noticed that some of those long bombs in Live 10 do go in. And I do recall an online game I played, I think against a random person from, I don't even know if they were in our community, but just playing against them back in the day, and they hit a full court shot to win the game.
Yeah, it brings you back to that conversation that we had with Josh and Dave when they were on the podcast, and the creators of Basketball Classics, and they brought up how they have to program like the possibility percentage of a shot going in like that, right?
Yeah.
Like they gotta program. Is it going to have a 5% chance? If it's wide open, is it slightly more? Now, it's obviously a little bit harder when you're, programming full court shots. So it makes me think that in that game, they just programmed the percentages to be a little bit too high for full court shots. And maybe because it's on pro, they have even a higher chance of going in. That's my guess. But anyway, that's definitely a top 10 play by Big Z. I mean, it's going to be interesting because we have to get our series going.
We do, and of course, I still haven't got that audio issue fixed. But worst case scenario, I suppose we mute and put some old NBA Live music over it, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the way we're going to have to do it, because I definitely still want you to host your home games. One thing about Parsec I did want to bring up: my brother, my oldest brother, decided that he wanted to try to continue our 2K17 three-way season at home. Because he wasn't able to make it over tonight and he wanted to. He usually does come over on the weekends. And so he lives probably about 15 minutes from us, I would say, 15-minute drive. And he downloaded Parsec, and it's me and my brother local and him connecting with us on Parsec. And we were able to continue our 2K17 season with me and my brother hosting. So Parsec's pretty great.
I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, the ability to do that. And he just couldn't believe it because Parsec went through an update, and it has now 3 settings for the resolution, for the quality. You know how it was just high and medium before?
Oh yeah.
Now it's lowest latency, balanced, and highest quality, or something like that. There's 3 settings. So I had it on lowest latency, which means that the picture shouldn't be as sharp as it normally is, because you just want the lowest latency, the lowest input lag. And my brother Mark was telling me, he goes, this picture looks like I'm there playing with you guys. Like, the picture on my end looks fantastic. And he had minimal to zero input lag, and he was playing on Wi-Fi. So yeah, pretty amazing. And I just want to thank the creators of Parsec, actually, because look how much fun we've had this year with that application.
Oh, it's changed. It's changed our basketball gaming this year, 100%.
Yeah, and we got to get back on the road trip, you and I too.
We do. No, I'm looking forward to doing that, and of course getting our series underway. And one of us will be moving on to the finals. We shall see. And I do love the idea of hosting my home games, so that we're actually alternating that home court advantage with a slight amount of lag.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out. You're going to have more home games in the series because I'm the higher seed, so that's the way we're doing it. I think I'm a slightly higher seed that season, so we'll definitely see how this goes. You had a little bit of input lag against me, and you were able to beat me in games, and I think I'll be able to do the same and vice versa. So it's going to be a good series.
It should be competitive. Really, I'm looking forward to the highlights, because people really seem to have taken to our previous games and highlights. I'm looking back through some of the YouTube comments and responses to our various retro games, our fantasy teams, makeshift retro games, I should say, and people are really enjoying them, and I really do appreciate that. And of course, put out an article earlier this week which got a bit of traction, which I'll get to a bit later on in the show. But it's always nice as a content creator, as we said at the top of the show, we do this because we're passionate, and you understand that the numbers go up and down, and some videos will do better than others, or articles will do better than others, and whatnot. But you keep grinding, you keep that passion going, and you do it because you're passionate about the subject matter, basketball games, which obviously we are, and we have been playing a lot of them. You mentioned playing with your brothers, and your brother, you mentioned watches you play sometimes. And we were talking before we started recording, and you mentioned some kind of frustrating experiences with my team. And so we're going to be talking mostly about what we've been playing this week, because not a lot of news, obviously. There is a new patch for current gen, which has fixed up a couple of issues, except some people are still spawning over the ocean on the Concha del Mar in my career, unfortunately. And there's also been I think just a minor stability fix has come through for next gen, but apart from that, not a lot of news. So yeah, what have we been playing this week, Derek?
NBA 2K22, my team, for current gen, so for the PC version, is an absolute nightmare. I would have played NBA Live 07 tenfold over that experience that I had on NBA 2K22 current gen my team, and I will never pick that up again.
So
That's it. That's
can I
done.
just interrupt you for a second? I really need to
Yeah.
I really need to stress to our listeners how much Derek hates Live 07 on 360. So
I'm not a fan of it. I need to revisit it, but no, I'm not a fan of NBA Live 07
it's
on 360. But listen,
yeah.
you
Um,
you gotta understand.
for you to say that, that shows how much frustration you've been having because I know you're not a fan. I'm not a fan either, but I have revisited a couple of times and seen bits that work a bit better when you try and play into the crappiness of the game, when you try to adjust to the clunky mechanics. But you are right about it. But yeah, having said that, I cannot stress to our listeners how much '07 you are not a fan of it. So, for you to say that, I can just imagine how much of a rough time you've been having with my team in 2K22 next current gen.
I was ready to throw my controller for the first time in a long time, and my brother was watching, and he was laughing at how terribly bad it was. And people got to understand something. It's not that I wasn't winning. Like I told you before the call, I won the challenge. I was playing the Knicks on domination. I had a lot of good cards because I used my virtual currency and all of that stuff. And I had Jordan in my lineup, and I had Kareem, and I had Dirk, and I had Durant, and I just had a really good team. And I won the Rookie Pro and All-Star challenges against the Knicks. But the gameplay is so piss poor because you can't adjust the sliders. Those are just that's the game's default mechanics. So that means that, the body up sensitivity is at 50, and it's the default player movement sliders, and all of the sucking in and all of the sluggish player movement and all the inaccuracies and the underdone classic players. And you're moving with a guy who's actually fast in real life, and you can't even move on the perimeter, and you're just picking up the ball constantly. And you feel like the only thing you can do is back in and try to drop step, and then you drop step and you get 3 people sucked into you and you miss a layup that you should have been wide open. It's like it was the perfect storm. And I will, like I said, that there's just that default gameplay and how poorly those classic players are made, and those default sliders. It's just the worst experience, and I will not pick up my team on current gen again. It's done. On a positive side, like you've seen my videos that I've uploaded to YouTube and whatnot, I like my team on NBA 2K22 next gen. The players feel a little bit lighter. There's not as much sucking in. There's you can make quick moves, and you're not just picking up the ball constantly. Like overall, I like the gameplay for my team on 2K22 next gen. So this isn't like a hater thing. I'm just telling you that was a terrible, terrible experience. I do not want to go back to.
That is the consensus so far, is that next gen is where it's at, which is, again, no surprise, since that is the version that got the most attention. It is the version they're trying to push moving forward. I have had some more fun with current gen, but it is definitely inferior. So I'm not surprised. And like you say, with those modes, my career, my team, because you are locked into those game settings, that tuning that they've put in place, rather, you can't do it.
Jump into my team, and I want you to play an all-star challenge. And I don't care if you have a really good team, like put a good team on the floor, okay? And I want you to jump into a challenge, and I want you to tell me that you had fun. I want you to, we'll even go on video chat so you can look me in the face. And I want you to tell me somehow that you had fun with that. Because I know how you play video games.
Yeah.
I know your video game habits. I've played with you. I played against you. I know the way you move on the court. I know what the stuff that you like to do. And I can guarantee you, I would put money on it, that you would not enjoy that experience at all. It's just too restricting. It's too limiting. It's so frustrating. All of the game's issues are magnified. It's just what a terrible experience.
I haven't got into domination on current gen yet, so I'll play one. I'll play an all-star domination game for you on current gen on PC, and I'll get back to you next week. I mean, I'm sure I'll let everybody else know next week. I'm sure I'll let you know beforehand.
Do the same one I did. Do the Knicks challenge. Just jump on the Knicks challenge, play rookie, pro, and then do all-star. And, have a good lineup out there for all-star. And I want you to tell me how that feels. because you move around with Jordan and you're going to want to throw the controller. Using that 85 overall Jordan, he is piss poor crappy moving around on that floor. You can't do crap with him. It's just such a frustrating, boy, I'll tell you, my brother was watching me play it and he goes, look how far 2K has fallen. He likes by the way, he likes a lot of things about the next gen version, but as far as like that version, it's like, how did we go so far backwards? My brother and I played a game of NBA 2K13 tonight. We were actually playing the URB roster by Sco, Adam, and Slim, and we were playing the 84-85 76ers versus the 84-85 Chicago Bulls. So obviously the 76ers have Moses Malone, Julius Erving, Charles Barkley, Bobby Jones, and the Bulls have Orlando Woolridge, Michael Jordan, Steve Johnson, like fun pieces, right? But we're playing this game, and listen, the dribbling and the player movement and the dunks at the hoop and the defense even in 2K13 and whatnot, and just the fun factor of 2K13 absolutely demolishes and blows away NBA 2K22 current gen. I'm sorry. I mean, we were playing 2K13 and we were having an absolute blast. And it's just the exact opposite when we pick up the sticks and play the current gen version of 2K22.
I mean,
look how
much fun I've been having with 2K14 for PS4, playing it on my PS5. Funnily enough, I'm going back. I am playing 2K22, and I'm basically at the point where I'm shelving 2K14 now because I've done everything I want with it. I've been able to get my screenshots and my get some clips for future video features and clips and screenshots for articles, and obviously being able to have that time in the sticks to really do those retrospectives. But I'm ready to put it aside now. But it has been a blast. It has been keeping my attention up until 2K22 came out and beyond. That's how good it's been. And there was something very special about the games at that time that, yes, we have lost, unfortunately. To that point, I wrote an article, posted it on Monday, the Monday tip-off, where I talked about the rising cost of my career for a point guard build that I made in 2K22 compared to what I had in 2K14. About a 348% increase in how much it costs to get from the starting ratings to 85 overall, and to get some pretty high or maxed out key attributes as well. So that kind of went a bit viral. A few creators shared that, including shout out to Dom2K and some others who shared that with the community. Got a pretty good response. A lot of people checking out that article. Mind you, Derek, a lot of people I think looked at the tweet and didn't read the article. I can also tell that because I looked at the tweet analytics as well. But simply from the replies, it just said inflation, dog, inflation, bro. It's not just it's not just, and this I'm actually quoting them what they actually said. And bro, dog, I gotta tell you, it's not just inflation, because inflation would also imply that the salary goes up. Now, as people have pointed out, there are quests that you can do, but not everybody wants to do quests in a basketball video game. And you can do the daily spin, but you may not necessarily get VC from that. So there are ways to get VC, but it's not always a fun way of doing it. And it's still a higher amount, there's still a rising cost. And Kenny was doing the math on it, and a do-rag costs about 15,000 VC, and he's currently getting 1,000 VC in his My Career salary. So a piece of clothing is still costs 15 times what a single game salary is worth. That is not inflation. That is a very disproportionate inflation. So that everyone's saying inflation or business or whatever, please miss me with that. This is a genuine issue, and I was glad that to people's credit, and I really do appreciate this. And the people who shared it and the people who responded, most people were saying this is ridiculous. Thank you for talking about it, and I do appreciate that.
Thousands of impressions, thousands of interactions too.
Over 500,000 impressions.
Yeah, it's just it's very good. That's fantastic that it got that many looks and whatnot. And like you said, it's good that some high follower accounts shared it and whatnot to help that cause. But I'm going to tell you something. I looked at the comments there, and like you said, there's still those people who either didn't read the article or apologists. You know, the whole "what do you expect" type comments.
Rock called it. You see Rock's comment? Rock called it.
Yep, absolutely. There were people who were saying, get with the times, like comments types like that, or like it's the gamer's fault because they keep buying every year.
Hmm.
If the gamer if people weren't buying it, they'd have to change their ways, like stuff like that. And then kind of like putting it on the gamers. So yeah, I mean that's those responses are really frustrating. But overall, you got the response and a lot of eyes on it that need to be on it, right? And so I appreciated that, and I was glad to see that it blew up because listen, that's the mode that they promote the most, right?
Yeah.
And the you know what, and it's the stuff that's inside that mode that they promote the most. The way you travel in the mode, the fit. We've talked about this before. I've screenshotted it over and over again, like how it's more about fit than basketball now. It's, hey, do you want to cop this fit? Are you copying this fit this weekend? Stuff like that, and all of that needs to be bought, for the most part with VC, and that inflation that you're talking about, that they're trying to talk about and whatnot, and trying to make excuses for it. Really, it's all it is just greed, right? It's greed. It's trying to make people spend as much time on the game as possible and have them get to the point where they're so frustrated that they don't want to grind anymore that they pony up, right? They
Exactly.
spend that money. And yeah, there should be no excuses made for them.
And that's the point that I keep bringing up, because people say you don't have to spend money, and I know this because I don't. I've got a player to 99 overall before by not spending a single cent, so I know you can do it. But the bigger picture, as we like to say, is it a fun experience? I had fun, yes, but there were a lot of times when I opened up that damn VC purchase screen and thought, $10, maybe I will speed things up, and that's me, who hates microtransactions, really kind of fighting against the urge, and that's what they're counting on. And I'll read off a tweet here from Jim Sterling that really sums up the situation as far as, is it fun? They said, you have to design the game to be bad for XP boosts and quote-unquote time saver purchases to work. Make it slow, make it boring, make it repetitive. Make the kind of game an effing hack would make, and it soon becomes valuable to play less of it. And that in a nutshell, is my career with that grind.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that if we're being on, we've talked about their target audience and whatnot. And I don't want to say this because I know there's good people that work for the company.
Exactly.
We've talked about this.
For sure.
There are good people, but those practices are preying on children.
They're predatory, yeah, absolutely.
They're preying on children, teens, and young adults, and a lot of these
gambling addicts,
kids,
compulsive
gambling. It's like, oh yeah, of course. And the other thing too, we've talked about this before, and it's really frustrating, is a lot of influencers, the biggest influencers that these kids follow, they keep pushing this stuff. Right? It's the whole watch me open up, all of these packs, like the My Team packs that these kids have to spend all of this extra money on to be able to do that. But these influencers go out there without a care in the world and say, watch me drop $1,000. Those are literally titles in YouTube videos. Watch me drop $1,000 on My Team.
Because they have that money. They're making that money.
Right, exactly. And a lot of it, honestly, is they're, getting promoted by 2K and whatnot, and a lot of that income is being generated by the promotion of 2K of that influencer, right? So it's like it's even more frustrating because of that. But yeah, no, they know exactly what they're doing, and the influencers are they just want to be part of 2K. They want to be getting their perks and all of that stuff, so they're just going to follow suit, right? They're not thinking about what that's doing to the consumer. So yeah, it is really frustrating, but I am glad that you put that out there, and it is pretty eye-opening how far we've fallen. And one thing that I got to say that is nice, I'm starting to see more people relate the gameplay issues and the virtual currency, money grab and whatnot. People are starting to relate it back to 2K18.
Yes.
Like I'm starting to see more comments, and I want to say there was one on your thread too. There are more people that I'm seeing this year than ever say this started with 2K18. And that's good because that's what happened.
People remember the haircuts. They remember that.
Yeah. 2K18 was the biggest turn for the worst for them in their history. of having NBA 2K.
You want to know how bad it's gotten? I went into my career in current gen because, of course, I'm checking everything out. I'm not playing it really. I'm just checking everything out so I can do my proper review and to comment on the issues, obviously. And it's actually not as bad, the cost to upgrade on current gen, but it's still a lot more than it used to be. At least twice as much, about 2.5 times, in fact. So I went into my court. Back as of 2K17, you still had to buy the different customization options, like your different floors, your different scoreboards, etc. For my career, for my court in my career. In 2K18 with the Road to 99, they switched it to getting to the right overall rating. Once you got that on the Road to 99, you unlocked all the parts. Actually, you unlocked them in different parts, and then it got ridiculous where you had to get to legend level just to change the floor or the walls, the murals. So they've had a bad approach to it. This year, finally, immediately everything is customizable again in my court at no cost. It's taken a whole generation to get to that point. So we've seen how they've just gotten greedier with it, and how even when they've tried to make it less greedy, it's just gone in bad directions. I knew that it was bad, and I think a lot of people do, but as I said in my article, the reason I put it out there is because obviously I've been playing 2K14 my career, but having done that, I've been able to get solid numbers to compare. And when you actually put the number value on it of how much VC it used to cost and how much it costs now, it really emphasizes it. I mean, it's enough to say, oh, it's gotten more expensive over the years and have a rough idea, which is correct. But to actually put numbers on it like that, and again still have people being apologists about it, I mean, I wasn't totally surprised. I was more surprised that there weren't more apologists, and I think that is very heartening. That there are more and more people that are seeing these issues, noting that they do impact the experience, and speaking out.
We see it in the reviews. We've talked about the Metacritic reviews and all the majority of the comments that we see being negative, right? Like, we see it, especially since 2K18. There have been more negative comments that I've seen about the series than positive. So I just want to put that out there. This isn't like a new thing where people are suddenly starting to get negative. We've seen that downward spiral, since 2K18. So, listen, the other thing, too, I want to point out, NBA 2K more and more, the more I look into my career and the My Team stuff, the kind of like the gambling mechanics within My Team and trying to get you to, buy more VC so you can get more packs and all this stuff and the way the influencers push it and everything. But NBA 2K and those online modes more and more each year resembles those predatory mobile games.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's just, it reminds me so much of those mobile games. And it's funny too, because like the mobile, like adventure type questing games that they release that have, quests and NPCs, and look what NBA 2K has now, quests and NPCs in a basketball game. But anyway, yeah, it those modes more and more resemble just the predatory mechanics of a mobile game that's just trying to put a bunch of cool graphics up and flashy lights, and just constant reminders of, here you could spend more to get this, and look at this shiny new thing, do you want this, you're going to have to spend more, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just more and more. And by the way, I'm so glad that I don't play my career. Thank God I have no interest in that. I don't have any interest in it, and I'm really thankful for that.
And it's funny because I have been playing, obviously, 2K14 my career. I just wrapped up the rookie season in that. And, I mean, I've been burned out on my career. I played it a lot because I did enjoy it, but then it became kind of an obligation because I was playing online in the connected online team play mode, so you have to do the grinding in my career to get your player up to a level where they can be competitive. So there was a kind of an obligation after a while to really grind hard. I enjoyed it, but there was definitely work there and kind of being hooked on it. It's more so than really enjoying it as much as I would like to.
But you enjoy the gameplay too. Like the amount of highlights I've gotten from you, I could create an hour video. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you're enjoying the gameplay. It's minimal. You have some frustrations with the gameplay, but it's minimal. Okay. It's not like overtaking your enjoyment, and you look forward to getting on the court, and that's not what I've seen from people in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, definitely.
Playing that.
And in fact,
So
to that point, I'll circle back to 2K22 for a sec. The other thing people were saying in response to my thread was, but the game is actually good this year, which I would agree that the next gen is a better product than last year, certainly. And 2K22 Next Gen is one of the best games we've had in a few years, I feel. But that's neither here nor there. It doesn't change the approach. It doesn't change the grind. It doesn't change the overall philosophy of the game. So, oh, it's good this year. Oh, it's business. Oh, it's inflation. None of that. It's all apologism. It's all excuses. So, again, miss me with all that stuff. But yes, 2K14, my career, I had a blast with it. Couldn't put it down. Had to play through to the end because once I got that deep, I knew I was going all the way with it. So, got to the playoffs. Had a good run through the playoffs. Lost a couple of games. Wasn't too upset about that because losses do make things interesting. Had a tremendous battle in the Eastern Conference Finals. I did sweep the Heat, but they really made me earn it. I was kind of, it was, again, white-knuckle gaming, if you will, gripping the controller and sitting forward and then just sitting back in relief when the final buzzer went and I walked away with a 3-point win and whatnot. It was great. Some of the most satisfying victories against the CPU I've ever had playing a basketball video game. Off-season came, had the one-on-one with Jackson Ellis on the roof, got recruited by LeBron James, and I'm thinking, well, no, I'm not going to join you, especially after I've just beaten you in the Eastern Conference Finals, only for LeBron to go and join Kobe on the Lakers.
how accurate, the trajectory of his career. No, I want to say something. Again, listen to the excitement in your voice talking about the gameplay. That's the point that we're talking. We referenced that Uproxx article. Well, I swear it sounded like they were listening to our podcast when they were writing that with some of the stuff they were saying. But how many times have we said, if it's truly fun on the hardwood, and I'm talking about not just like when you get good, but when you pick up the sticks initially, even if you have a new character and overall you're still having fun, like it's a fun time, then a lot of the stuff that frustrates you about the game's design and all of that stuff, some of that will be forgiven, right?
Sure. I mean,
but that's the problem.
Yeah.
2K a lot of times over the last 4 or 5 years is it has those design flaws in the predatory mechanics and whatnot, the predatory behaviors of the modes, and at the same time the game just hasn't been that fun, if fun at all.
Yeah, it's the ratio to fun, the ratio to frustration, the ratio to intrusive mechanics. Yeah, it's all a factor.
Right, exactly. You were sharing your stats and talking about how much fun you had with 2K14, and it got me thinking. I played, so how I said I was never into like my career modes and stuff.
Yeah.
Played the career mode in NBA 2K13. It's the only game I ever did it, really. And I remember my roommate at the time. It wasn't my brother; it was my best friend, Craig. And I remember him coming home one time and he was watching me play and he was asking me, what I was playing, and I was telling him about my progress and how much fun I was having with that mode. And it just made me think of that time when I was playing 2K13. And, we talk about my career a lot on this podcast, but I don't think I ever shared that I played 2K13.
No, I didn't. I don't remember you saying that because that was the first year that I got into my career with the Denver Nuggets. That's one of my favorite games as well because of that.
I thought it was really enjoyable overall, the gameplay. I was pretty immersed in the mode. I didn't even think about any predatory mechanics or anything being unfair with the game when I was playing it. So it must have been pretty fair, I would say. At the time, you probably know a little bit more about it than I did because I didn't finish like the My Career mode. But
were you on PC?
Yeah,
because it didn't have VC at all. It only has skill points on PC in 2K13.
Oh, no, console. I wasn't on PC.
Oh, okay.
Yet.
No, I mean, probably would have been more like 2K14, which is to say a lot fairer. And because you're not worrying about the online scene, and indeed, these days, if you don't worry about the online scene, you can still go at your own pace, but it's still, you're still a bit more hamstrung from the start. But I did play a couple of games into the second season because the 76ers that I'm on, obviously, they signed Carmelo Anthony, so I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting to play with him. But I discovered a rather nasty bug, Derek, because I've also been getting a little bit into my GM to do a retrospective, but also have a bit of fun with it as well before I put aside 2K14 PS4, and I turned auto subs and auto timeouts off in my GM, and it saved it into the settings for my career. So when I went back into my career not knowing this, I ended up playing a full game and my team wouldn't sub or call a timeout at all. So that's kind of a nasty bug, and I think that comes down to. I mean, you remember the menus in 2K14, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, how clunky they were, and how there's a bunch of stuff under the hood that was causing problems. I think I just found another bug right there.
Did you win the game?
No, I didn't. I didn't win the game.
Yeah, probably because they were exhausted towards the end of the game, and fatigue heavily affects performance.
Exactly, absolutely.
In 2K14, yeah, so that's not good. No, but I'll be surprised if you can put it down completely, because I feel like you're going to keep playing it off and on, because I know that you said your retro kick was finished and all of that stuff, but are you really going to stop after a couple games into your new season? I doubt it. Not when you've been having that much fun.
Well, the only thing that would stop me is, funnily enough, is something else in 2K14, because I've also been playing My GM, the first My GM, because I wanted to do a retrospective of that. So I've been playing My GM with the Bulls. I'm a few games into that. Made some interesting signings. I've got James Flight White. I signed him. He's actually been a bit of a hero for me. I was trailing in Game 2, the second game of the season, and he just went off, hitting threes, making dunks, everything. So he's earned himself a starting spot while Carlos Boozer's out with injury. A couple of games into the season, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. But again, it really reminded me of why I love franchise modes. That you can have this. This is where virtual hardwood legends are made, is it not? Yes, it happens in other modes as well. But here I am picking up this low-rated free agent just to fill out the roster a little bit and change things up, and not have to just play with the default roster, because I didn't really want to play with Marquise Teague. All due respect to Marquise Teague, not the best Teague brother, but anyway.
Play with Jeff Teague. I wouldn't want to play with Marquise.
There you go.
No, that's wild. I mean, I saw that. I wanted to ask you though. You mentioned it on social media and showed some screenshots, but I didn't gather which mode it was in. If it was in My Career or if it was in My GM. But I saw, what was that? Tony Snell for Giannis. What happened with that?
Yeah. So I was tasked with getting a first round pick. So I'm just going through the trade offers, the trade finder in My GM, and I put Tony Snell out there, and the Bucks offered Giannis for him straight up, because of course this is 2K14. It's default rosters because it's installed on the PS5, and the servers are offline, so the roster updates are long since not coming through anymore. So Giannis is a 60 overall, but he still plays pretty well for a 60 overall. So they offered him, what was he, the 11th pick of the draft, 15th pick of the draft that year for Snell, something like the 26th, 27th pick, or something around that vicinity. So they offered him straight up. So I said, "Yep, I will just take Giannis. I will turn him into a young superstar." But yeah, what a bizarre thing to see, to look back 7-8 years and see such a low-rated Giannis in 2K14. Of course, he went on to become the 2K19 cover player, and of course the reigning champion and Finals MVP. But Snell for Giannis, what a steal!
Makes me think back to like NBA Live 2004, where LeBron, Wade, and Carmelo and Bosch or whatever are all
under 70, yeah,
50s or 60s overall and whatnot. It's really strange because when you look now at NBA 2K22 and the newer 2Ks and whatnot, and the way they rate the rookies, especially the top 10 and whatnot, they're like 77 overall, 78 overall. Like, you can put them on the floor and they can do stuff, right? Unless you're playing on current gen with default sliders for 2K22, because then you just do anything. Yeah, it's absolutely wild how poor the rookies, even the top picks, were made in so many classic games.
It is, and I know it's hard to gauge rookies before they come in, but there have definitely been some underrated rookies, and Giannis at 60 overall. Even more insulting is his non-face in Live 14. So at least 2K14 actually has a proper Giannis face, so that's something, I suppose. But I've been having fun with it, and it's... I've written up a retrospective of it, obviously, for that and My Career moving forward. They'll be in Wayback Wednesdays in the coming weeks, actually. But it really makes me wish that I had gotten into 2K14 a bit more back then, that I hadn't ended up feeling so soured on the brand because of some things that happened before release. And My GM, look, the first iteration of My GM definitely made a mistake by putting things like having to unlock, changing the rotation, making that unlockable behind a paywall of VC was a bad move. They did in that respect. I like what they did, and I'll go into more detail in the article that's coming out. I like the whole idea of upgrading and growing as a front office player, as a GM. With leveling up system, it's a nice idea, and certainly you've got all that depth of franchise mode, and I'm going to be starting a 2K22 my NBA, Derek. There's no two ways about it. I'm ready for franchise mode. I'm loving just playing, just messing around with this franchise mode in 2K14. I'm ready to do that more often and be right back into it in 2K22. You won me over, Leftos. You got me back. If you're listening, but they really did make a mistake, and because it made such a bad impression by putting that stuff behind the VC paywall. Because once you get past that, and it's understandable if you didn't, but once you do, you see all that depth that playing franchise mode and dynasty mode in NBA Live back in the day, and certainly even the current generation, previous generation as well. It's just all that depth that was not there in Live, and we looked on with envy with what the association was doing. But man, what a solid mode, despite some horrible menus and the VC system.
The menu system.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's only having one custom roster slot.
Yep.
It's not being able to use multiple teams in a like a franchise type mode and whatnot. I think it's my GM, like you stated.
Yep.
Or what? Yeah, and it's like, wow, they really, really messed up. I think yeah, I don't even want to get into that anymore. We've talked about it so many times on other podcasts. As far as NBA 2K22 goes, so my brother and I are 47 games into a My NBA, and we're playing on the same team. That's what we like to do. And we're using legends against regular teams for fun, and we have stat goals and whatnot. Here's what I think of NBA 2K22 Next Gen as far as what we have fun with. I think it's a really fun game when you're playing on the same team, just trying to have fun like we are with legends. I think that we've really enjoyed it. This is the furthest we've gotten into a season like this since NBA 2K17. We definitely plan on finishing it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we finish that season before the end of this year, if not before the end of November. So we're definitely getting our money's worth in that regard. I think that the game plays pretty well in my team overall. So, single player versus the computer. I think that the domination games overall plays pretty well on NBA 2K22 Next Gen. Where I think it falls apart a little bit is it can be a really frustrating experience going human versus human. Now, that's not something that you get into because, again, you don't have anybody living with you like I do, like with my brother and whatnot, or anybody that can visit regularly where you can play a lot of games, right? So that's where we're not having as much fun, is the human versus human element. I think that with regular teams, it's a little bit more bearable because they tried harder on them as far as like tendencies, ratings, signatures, and whatnot. Everything's just a little bit more accurate, and the game flows a little bit better. But once you get into the classic teams, which we really enjoy, we enjoy classic content. Once you get into the classic teams, they're so poorly done that when you put them on the floor, it's just not fun at all, like pretty much any of the classic teams. So we would have to dedicate so much time to signatures and ratings and tendencies and all of that stuff to make that content playable, super playable and fun. And I don't think we're willing to do that at this point. It's just, there's a frustration factor that goes into trying to edit those teams now because we're just kind of upset that they've just made it such a low priority, right? That they haven't put the time in or got somebody who will put the time in to honoring those classic teams properly.
And it's a big project. I mean, you can do it. You know how to do it. You have the NBA knowledge, you have the knowledge of history and the rating systems to correct that. So it's not that we don't have the ability. And again, people might say, we'll just fix them. You can, but it's a big job. And by the time you've done that, maybe the year's half over and you're ready to move on to something else, or the next game is coming out. So that's the problem. We can fix it, but should we? And I know I brought this up on last week's show as well, and this is going to be probably a recurring theme, just like bigger picture and shoelace physics and everything else. But the big question that we should ask ourselves is, we can, but should we? Should we have to?
I spent on 2K21, I was trying to fix up the all-time teams, and I was 20-plus hours in, and I wasn't even close to half done, those teams. I think 20-plus hours in trying to, fix them, make them more accurate, do the right signatures. fix their tendencies, fix the copy and paste jobs and all of that stuff, make them playable and whatnot. I want to say that I was probably only about 12 teams in, 10 to 12 teams in of just the all-time teams, and I had over 20 hours in doing it. That's a red flag. So if you think about it, that would probably be 60 plus hours to try to make the all-time teams play somewhat accurate, to eliminate those rush jobs, copy and paste jobs that the NBA 2K roster makers did. And that's not even touching the default classic teams.
Exactly.
So do we want to put over 100 hours in?
Yeah, just to do that. Do you just do the most egregious problems? But then, okay, there's a lot of those. So what are the most egregious of the most egregious? Yeah, it's tough, and it's a shame because I've put out the NBA 1K95, which of course I realize is more like saying 1095, which is way before basketball was invented. Of my highlights from 2K14 session, I've been sending you some retro highlights as well when I've played some games. I've really been enjoying playing with the retro teams again lately, on top of my GM and my career, and it's just a shame that attention to detail, as we've said before, has just not been there for years. It doesn't make them as fun to play with, and of course, then in my team, you're stuck with those ratings as well, and those nerfed ratings. Like you said, the 85 overall Michael Jordan is not your full Michael Jordan. Yes, it's nice to be able to cheaply acquire a readily available Michael Jordan card and play with him, so you've at least got an MJ to play with. By the way, I did send my MJ card away to be authenticated or evaluated, whatever it is, with my team. Came back 9.5 mint, gem mint, cool, whatever algorithm that is. Supposedly getting more MT per game, a medium boost for MT. I think it might have accounted for about 100 to 200 extra MT, which is not a lot, really, to be honest. It's kind of disappointing. That economy is also broken in my team. The MT economy in my team is broken.
Right, I want to bring something up, too, really quick, because I about the ratings discussion. I need people to understand something. NBA 2K17 is one of Andrew and I's, it's one of our favorite games. If not, it might be my brothers and I's favorite NBA 2K ever. NBA 2K17 overall for gameplay and whatnot. Those roster issues are also in 2K17. A lot of them.
Oh yeah.
We were putting together a makeshift Celtics team of some of our favorite players from the 96-97 Celtics, the 94-95 Celtics, and the 01-02 Celtics. So we did like a makeshift team, and I converted a bunch of faces over from the newer games to NBA 2K17, Andrew DeClerc and whatnot. And David Wesley, and I've talked about this before, but David Wesley is a complete copy and paste, signature-wise and tendency-wise, of Dwayne Wade. David Wesley in NBA 2K17. So if you go in there, he has all of Dwayne Wade's shooting forms, his free throw, he has his dunk package, his dunks, and he has 95 on alley-oop tendency, really high driving dunk tendency, etc. So David Wesley, in one of our, and if not our favorite NBA 2K ever, at least one of them, no matter what, is a copy paste rush job. So this has been going on for a long time. And I just want people to know that. And I'm just so sick of it. I'm so sick of the discrediting and the disrespect for those classic players and classic teams. It's ridiculous. If I was Barkley, I wouldn't want to be in the game either, to be honest with you.
No, and of course, the 85 overall Jordan is kind of Jordan-esque, but very underpowered, because at some point there's going to be a Galaxy Opal or a Dark Matter,
Listen, it's not the point that it's an 85 overall Jordan that you expect. You expect an 85 overall Jordan to not be as good as the better Jordans. That's expected. But you don't expect him to drop the ball constantly, be a slug, and not be able to do jack squat on a basketball court.
Exactly.
That that Jordan's going to be sucked in everywhere, and every single time that you drive to the hoop with an 85 overall Jordan, which by the way, 85 overall is good. Every time you drive to the hoop, you just keep bricking over and over and over again with Michael Jordan, and he's absolutely useless, and he's getting stopped by these little guards and whatnot constantly because there's so much sucking in and gravity issues and stuff with the game. It's not that you expect an 85 overall Jordan or an 85 overall player, to be something that he's not. You're expecting to be able to move around like a basketball player on a court.
Competence.
Okay?
You expect competence.
So again, play that All-Star Challenge against the Knicks or whatever, and I want you to, we will even get on a video call, and I want you to tell me with a straight face that you had fun with it, because I don't think you'll be able to.
No,
It's just not.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic either. But you know that is how they sell those better cards when they come out. You underpower that base set, and I understand the point of it. And yes, the point of collecting better cards is to have better cards on the base set. But to be so underpowered, it's again, it comes back to the my career issue that people say that you can not spend money, you can get the fun this way, you can grind. But is it as fun as it should be? Is that balance right? And that's,
But it's not
yeah.
even underpowered. It's the game's mechanics. Like, it's
True.
like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even his overall. It's not even what you like. If you dive into it, it's not even like really Michael Jordan's ratings. It's the game's engine. That's what it is. It's like using that player in that game's engine is a full blown nightmare. Like, just all the game's issues magnify. Like, it's just unbelievable. So I want to point, and I agree with you though. That's what the mode does. What they do is they'll, give you underpowered players, and I think they underpowering players, and I believe they do that on purpose. As far as making them feel sluggish a lot of times and whatnot, or underpowered, in order for you to spend more money. Like, I totally understand too. That's that's what we talked about a little bit earlier. But again, it's not that he's 85 overall.
It's the
Because
mechanics.
that's
Sure. Yeah.
It's the mechanics, right? So it was just super frustrating. And like I said, I enjoy it. So I'm not a hater, people. I'm enjoying my team overall on NBA 2K22 Next Gen. I've talked about it on multiple podcasts now. But man, that current gen version with those default sliders and just the way it plays and everything it's just terrible for those in the modes that you can't change the sliders.
I mean, sounds like a good idea for me to get back into franchise gaming. So I'm all for in my NBA. I'm liking the idea of playing with the current Bulls because they're looking to be a more fun team this year. Obviously liking the look of them with what I've seen in the preseason so far, so I think playing with them is going to be a lot more fun. My NBA is probably going to be the way to go for me. I will be doing that. In fact, I can definitely say I'll be doing that because my GM has just really whet my appetite for franchise gaming again. I'll still dip my toe in with some from some my team and probably check out my career, if only again to be able to talk about to be able to speak on the issues with the game. But franchise, my NBA, that's where I think is where it's going to be at for me this year. And of course, unfortunately, that isn't on PC or current gen, PS4 and Xbox One. Still, My League and My GM 2.0 and My League Online. Do you think next year, 2K23, we actually will get the next gen port on PC? Because we thought it was going to come this year, but obviously not.
I'm worried. I have this weird feeling that we may not even get a PC version, and I'm not saying I have no knowledge of anything. Like I don't have any inside sources or anything like that. I'm just not liking the trends. I'm not like 2 years, two releases in a row where next gen was out there and we got the current gen version. It's feeling a little bit like the NBA Live series right now.
Yeah. Yep.
What NBA Live did, where NBA Live 06, 07, 08 ended up being released for PC as that last gen PS2 port.
PS2 ports, yeah.
And so it's reminding me a lot of that. And then they stopped releasing on PC. I hope that's not the case. I hope that we always get a PC version of NBA 2K, but I don't know. Part of me is worried that they're going to stop releasing on PC.
No, it's funny you say that because I've been thinking the same thing. That I'm seeing those similar trends. And look, 2K21 was much like 2K14 for PC in that the next-gen console was launched a couple of months afterwards, so it was understandable that we got the existing version. But then we got 2K15 was immediately that PS4 X1 port. The fact that it hasn't happened this year is concerning. So yeah, I'm starting to feel that as well, and I don't blame anyone if they feel the same way as us, because that trend is very familiar, and as you say, very much like what NBA Live did up until finally deciding, the PC version isn't worth it because it doesn't sell as much, and obviously piracy is a bigger issue as well. Hopefully we're wrong, and this is one of those cases where you absolutely want to be wrong, but no, I share those concerns too.
I think the cool thing for my gaming habits is I have the URB on 2K13, I have the UBR on 2K14 and 2K12. I have the amazing 91, 92, 96, 97 mods on 2K11, and then on 2K10 I have the 91, 92 mod, which I played earlier today, 96, 97, and 0203 and whatnot. I have and obviously the 2K17 mods and then the 2K19 mods. I have so many mods and so many games that my brothers and I just really enjoy playing that we can pick up and play at any time, that if the PC version were to go away, we would be fine, right? We have plenty of games to mod, plenty of games to play, and whatnot that we enjoy. But that doesn't mean that I don't understand the big picture of having a PC release out there.
Absolutely.
Like, look at NLSC.
Definitely.
Look at the people that the NLSC, and look at all those amazing creators and all the people who are so passionate about PC basketball gaming and whatnot. And, you know, they like to show off their works and they like to make works for the community. And I would feel really bad for those people. Because, you know, I get into that too. Like, I get into modding and whatnot, and I love it. I'm just saying it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. But a lot of people out there that in the community would be absolutely disappointed, and it would make them feel more ill will towards NBA 2K, which they already have a bit because they didn't get the next gen version, right? For NBA 2K22 on the PC. So I fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but I just have this bad feeling that there's a chance that we don't get NBA 2K23 on PC. I hope that's not the case. We'll see.
No, absolutely, and I'm with you. We have options because we've got great collections, and we can go back and or play on console, obviously. But hopefully that's just a paranoid thought, or just a worrying before we need to worry about it. But it was definitely a shame this year, especially because 2K22 Next Gen is pretty solid and certainly better than the current gen version, without a doubt. So we've talked about what we have been playing this past week. Once again, not a lot of news this week. It is a few weeks past release. Obviously, moving forward, once again, I want to be playing some NBA 2K22 Next Gen My NBA. Once the opening night rosters come through, I'll be starting that My NBA game. You are right. I'm sure I will still be dabbling with 2K14, even though I do want to put it aside. I'm sure it'll still be there. Like Live 10, it's going to be one that I'm going to be more readily pulling out as a retro gaming option, having developed such an affinity for it. Apart from that, I'd love to play some more of our road trip on Fire Edition, and of course we do have to get that Live 10 tournament semi-finals going. Any other plans that you have for the virtual hybrid in the near future?
I'd like to get back into Parsec gaming. I mean, we're going to be, anyway, you and I, for semifinals on NBA Live 10 for the tournament. We're going to have to play our games. So we'll be doing that, and I'd like to get back on the road trip. My brother and I, so my two brothers and I have a NBA 2K17 new My League that we started with the combination of those Celtics teams players, 94, 95, 96, 97. And 01, 02, and we're all on the same team. We're 3-0. We're playing against a computer, so we're going to continue that My League. So we play on Hall of Fame, and we play 12-minute quarters, so those games take some time. So you know, my oldest brother doesn't get to visit us all the time. He visits us probably once a week, twice a week at most. So the season sometimes takes a while to complete. Otherwise, you know, my brother and I, my other brother Nick, who lives with me, we're in the middle of an NBA 2K19 season using the great Stildo retro rosters, and where I want to say about 15 games into a season, with him using the Spurs and me using the Trailblazers. So we're going to be playing some of that. I'll be playing NBA 2K22, my team, on next gen, not current gen. And we're still playing our My NBA on NBA 2K22 with Legends, me and my brother. And then other than that, I'd like to get back into modding / playing NBA 2K14 and NBA 2K13, and maybe dabble a little bit into some modding with NBA 2K10. But man, those rosters for NBA 2K14 and 2K13 are just fantastic. All the mods that are being made for them still are just fantastic. And they're still two of the best games on PC that have ever been made by NBA 2K.
They hold up well, and we have the tools and the resources to really bring them up to date or create other brand new experiences. So Absolutely, and I'll be dabbling with a bit of modding, as I always try to do. Projects in the pipelines, including some, obviously, the obvious ones that have been there for way too long now. Going to keep grinding away on those in between playing, of course. And yeah, and to that point, we always say it, but let us know what you've been playing, what you've been enjoying, any thoughts you have on basketball gaming recently, and joining the discussion in the NLSC forum. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Please get involved in the conversation. I created a bunch of threads, too, in the NBA 2K22 section of the NLSC, and they haven't been super active. Tell us how your My Career is going. Tell us how your My NBA is going. Tell us how your My Team is going. All of that stuff. We'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. Share your tips and tricks, share your impressions, share your funny stories, share your gripes, whatever you want to say. We've got the forum there for you. But with that being said, that has brought us to the end of episode number 396 of the NLC podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. The NLC podcast comes out every Sunday on the NLSC, which is nb-live.com, of course. We're also on all the major podcatching apps and platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, to name just a few. On those platforms, search for NLC Podcast, look for our logo, and that will be us. And of course, if you'd like to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be very much appreciated. With that being said, as long as you're tuning in each and every week and enjoying the show, that is the main thing. And of course, we'd also love to connect with you on social media. So Derek, what are your handles and any other final words you have for our listeners this week?
Keep submitting your top 10 highlights. We had a really good top 10 this week, which was released on the NLSC's YouTube channel, and I released the video on Twitter. So definitely submit your highlights to me, either via email or on Twitter or over on the NLSC, etc. You can find me where I'm the most active, at D4384 on Twitter, also at D43G, which is a gaming channel that I created. I'm over on the NLSC, D43, as a team member over there, and then I'm on YouTube as well, D43. And crazy enough, I haven't been really uploading many videos at all to my YouTube recently, but I had a spike in subscribers, and I gained about 20 over the last week. So somebody must have stumbled upon my content and shared it or something like that. So whoever that was, and those people who are subscribing, thank you. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's amazing what will go viral and what will catch on. And to that point, thank you once again to everybody who shared the tweet about the Monday tip-off. Very much appreciated. And look, obviously there are some differing opinions out there. Appreciate you sharing your opinions one way or the other. The NLSC, of course, is on Twitter at the NLSC, and on Facebook, the NLSC. If you'd like to follow me personally on Twitter, I am Andrew NLSC, as I said at the top of the show. On Instagram, we are NLSC Basketball. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. But yes, that's all for this week, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Andrew.
I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.